Sorry, I got interrupted by a teacher coming in to ask me about a project they were working on, so I had to stop the recording. We're back to doing the rabbits, and I've selected the rabbits. Now I need to come over here to toolpaths, and this time we're going to do a pocket toolpath again. We're going to use the same tooling, but let's start at the top. So our cut depth for a rabbit is half the thickness of the material that we're working with. Our material happens to be 3/4 of an inch, so our rabbit is going to be 3/8 of an inch deep, which is 0.0375. We're going to select our tool, get this out of the way. Our tool is going to be that same one that we just created. Everything, all of this stuff should be the same. You can do a quick glance, make sure it's all good. Hit OK. That's still tool number 1. Everything down here looks good. We're just going to call this rabbit. The only reason we couldn't do this at the same time as the pocket cuts is that the rabbits are a different depth, so we have to make a different tool path for it. So I'm calculating that, and now I get the preview, and I can see the rabbits are there. You'll notice when you zoom in real close that these don't touch, and we want them to touch, but the reason they don't touch is that this blue line is the center of the tool path. So we know that from the center, we have 3/16 going out because it's a 3/8 inch tool. So these will touch because the blue lines is the center of the tool path. So we should be just fine and dandy. We're going to go back to the 2D view. The last cut that we want to make is our profile cut. That's the cut that goes all the way around. Sometimes these get in the way. I'm going to click here, and I notice that this profile cut has that in it, and I don't like that because we don't want to cut all the way through here. So what I am going to do, this is going to be kind of tricky, but sometimes VCarve does that. I can even hide these tool paths so we don't see them. I'm just going to draw a new rectangle over the top here. If I hold down Shift when I draw, I can get that. And then I just come over here and I say it's going to be 20 by 15. Hit apply. And then you can see it's not right lined up yet, so I'll close this. Then I can even use the arrow keys to line it up just right with my piece. And the closer I zoom in, the closer I can get it. Okay. Now, since that's selected, I'm just going to hit Control C and Control V. Just make a copy of it. Bring it over here. And again, get good and close. I'm going to get even closer. Because I want to make sure that we're right on the money with this. I'm going to double check this guy. It's a little bit off. All right, so now I just drew a rectangle right over the top of it. It doesn't look any different probably from here, but I know now that when I click on this, notice it's not going inside those pockets anymore. And that is not going inside the pockets. So it really is just going to cut a rectangle. So I'm going to close this, come back up, and this time we're doing a profile toolpath. I did that kind of quick, so I'll go back and show you. We're going to do a profile toolpath, meaning we want the tool path or the bit to follow a line. So I'll click here. Cut depth should be 0.753. We know that our material is 0.75 thick, so 0.753 is going to cut through our material 3/1000ths of an inch. I'm going to go select my bit, and I can use that exact same bit as before. We just know now that it's going all the way through. That's why we wanted to change the pass depth to 0.753. So it's certain it can cut all the way through in one pass. Again, tool number 1. This one's really important. This is asking me, does the bit need to travel outside of the line, inside the line, or on the line? We want the bit to travel on the outside of the line so that my sizes stay perfect. Otherwise, if I would go inside the line, my piece is going to be 3/8 of an inch too small in each direction, or 3/4 overall. And if I go right on the line, it's going to be 3/16 off in every direction, or 3/8 total. So make sure you're on the line. We're ramping our plunge moves. And now here's something that we'll probably wind up doing to the smaller pieces. We're going to go ahead and put tabs in there because the small pieces sometimes move. That vacuum table is not powerful enough to cut all the way through, and the vacuum table is not powerful enough to hold the small pieces. So we are going to, actually let's just do that as a separate toolpath. So I'm going to click on these guys and these guys. So now I've got the outsides of the side, the shelf, and the top, as well as the other side. All those are selected now. So that's selected, that's selected, that's selected, and that's selected. We're going to skip the tabs for now, and we're going to call this sides profile. And we'll calculate that. We're going to get this warning that we're going to cut all the way through our piece, which we're okay with. So now we can see that, and if I wanted to turn back on the other tool path, we can see all the tool paths in there. So the last thing we need to cut out are these stringers here, and we're going to do something a little bit different, but not a whole lot different. So we're going to select them all. Let's just move them as close as we can get them together so we're not wasting material. Hopefully we can use the other stuff for another project. So we can highlight all three of them, or I can hold down Shift and select them each individually. Come back here to Toolpath. Again, it's going to be a profile toolpath. Start depth is 0, cut depth 0.735. The tool is the end mill. Always make sure you hit select because sometimes it'll be just like that and it won't look any different. You got to select the tool. We're going outside. We're going to ramp our plunge moves, but we're going to add these things called tabs. We're going to edit them. So we're going to make sure that there's 4 tabs on each piece. And you can see these tabs are going to be just, we call them onion skins. So it's a really little bit, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch, that's going to be left in those specific places so that they can't move. So they're still connected to the big board by a 1/16 of an inch. And then we just use a razor blade to get them out. I'm going to move where they're at because I'm not super thrilled with where they put them. I got to select them all again and come back to toolpaths. And I want to edit the tab. The tab thickness, I think we can even go 0.0625, just leave it. And the length is how long they are. We might be able to get away with a 1/4 inch. We don't need much. I think it's going to let me move them. Yeah, I don't like them in the corners because they're hard to sand off. So I'm going to put them like this, not in the corners. I didn't want to move. Whoops. I think I'll be able to erase the tab later. That one wants to fight. So then I'll come back here, close. If I've got the one tab in a goofy spot, that's okay. I'm not super concerned about it. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it. But if you can move it, I would move it. Okay, we're back here, add tabs, and we'll call this stringers. It's going to cut through, that's okay. Whoop, I must have only had one of them selected. So we're going to come back here to this tool path, hold down Shift, and calculate it again. There, now they're all 3 in there. So I can look at all this. I've got my stringers that are going to be cut, got my sides, my top, and my bottom shelf. The red lines are where the tool travels in between cuts. We don't have to worry about them. There's also another preview that we can do. Slow the speed down as slow as it can. Preview all tool paths, and that's what it's going to do. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but we can at least see it there. Now what I'm going to do is select all the toolpaths, hit close, and I want to hit the save button. So the first thing I would do is save this toolpath to your network drive. I'm going to go to my network drive. I'm going to go find this in Woods 2. And I hit save. I'm also going to save the file in there. Notice the file extension is different. This is a VCarve file. This is a .mmg file, which is the file that the CNC router recognizes. I want to make sure that I have the flash drive plugged in now, because I'm going to save this now on the flash drive. That's how I get it to the CNC router. So I'm going to find the USB drive, and you've got to name this your three initials. So I'm KLS, and then I'm going to say KLS1. So it's the first project that I'm CNC milling with the CNC router. Your next one could be, mine would be KLS2 when I get to my capstone project. The reason we want to name it this is it's really hard to find on that little pennant if we got some goofy name. So name it your initials, make sure it's MMG, and hit save. So now it's on the flash drive and we can bring it over to the router.